My data's coming in here. All right, so Julie has a question about an ATR strategy. And this strategy sounds a little new to me, but it doesn't sound very complicated. So if I understand this right, Julie, well, let me read her question. So the question is, when price gets to a certain percentage away from a previous high or low, so let's mark this. So we'll say, here's kind of our, oops, let me grab the circle there. Let's just say this is our previous high or low point. And I guess this would be one as well. So when price gets a certain percentage away from the previous high or low, or a previous swing, high or low, right? So we could use a swing indicator to identify these points here. So say the lowest price of the last 4 days is, a certain price. Need a signal for when the ATR reaches 50% of that level. So I believe what Julie is asking for is, let's see, let me find, hopefully, I think this vertical tool will go all the way across the chart. No, it doesn't. Let me just add another one here. So we have a price level here that would be, marked right there on the ATR. And if we look at the value of that, it's approximately 1.5. And I believe, let's see, Julie is saying that when we get, I'll mark it here with another line. So when we get to 50% of that, so 100% of that would be, up here at 0.3. So basically we're here at 0.15 or 0.15. So double that would be, let's change the scaling here. So double that would be up here. And so when we get to 50%, let's see, that would be about 0.225 right there. So when the ATR gets approximately to here, then we want a signal. And this could be just coincidental, but it does appear to lie right at our next high point, but also that would be an entry signal. Okay, thank you, Julie. And so, but also, hold on, let me read the next part of her question. Well, she mentions, let's see, the daily price for the last 4 days. So maybe something like this would work better on an instrument, on a stock instrument. And I don't have any stock instruments. Let me add one real quick. And all right, Apple seems to be popular. I'll just grab Apple and how about, let's see, Google. Oh. Darn, I love that feature when you can just hit a letter and it skips all the way down to that letter. That doesn't work in the instrument manager. So I'll scroll down, there's Google. All right, I have Google and Apple. So let's put this on Google, or Apple, sorry. And put this on a daily chart. And let me make this bar type a little easier to see. Let's see here. Put it on candles. There we go. Alright, so now just need to find another setup here. And alright, so maybe this point right here in December might work for us. So we'll consider that our low point. And let's mark the ATR value approximately there. All right, so Julie's saying just go to the previous swing high or low. The previous swing high or low. Let's see here. Julie, would you mean this point right here? Or is this point good enough? Because it seems like whenever we get into a trend, my ATR is always going down, and I'm trying to find a swing point where the ATR is going up. So that way I'm finding a 50%. All right, I'll just work with this then. All right, so Julie, you're saying just the last swing high-low from today's daily. So Julie, are you working on a daily chart, or are you working on intraday charts and you're looking to the high and low of the daily chart? Well, I guess, okay, we can do any chart. All right. Well, I guess the concept is, let's just try and get the concept across, regardless of the technicals of how the chart looks here. So we have a swing point here, right? And we need to identify the price, and then we're looking for price to exceed 50%. So we'll say this price level right here is 9. So we'll add 4.5 to that, and that should give us our 50%. So right about there. So this point right here, I believe, would be our entry price. Somewhere right about there. Let's see. So does that look correct there, Julie? So then, all right, so look for entries once the signal kicks in. Okay. All right, so Julie's saying yes, but you would look for entries off the EMA pullback. Okay. All right, so this is kind of like an initial setup. So it's not a trade entry. So this is the initial setup here. So the question is, all right, so we're looking for a 50% move up in the ATR. So this area here, marked by the circle, right, is our swing low point, and we can gather the price on the ATR, and then we're looking for a 50% move up. So, all right. All right, so then the next thing I need to know, Julie, is what indicator are you using that calculates your 50% price level. So that's, BloodHound uses indicators to calculate the mathematics for it. So, I've been asked a couple of times, how do you calculate 50% or 200% or something? And so I always need to know, right, so it's the indicators that do the mathematics, just like an SMA is doing the mathematics of calculating, the moving average of price, right? So BloodHound's not calculating the SMA. The indicator, that's what indicators, all indicators primarily do, is calculate mathematics for you. That's what the ATR is the mathematics. Same with stochastics and the MACD. So, Julie, if you have an indicator that's calculating the mathematics, that would be helpful to me. So she's using Excel. So she's using Excel, but wants to do this in BloodHound. So with price is double or 50% times beyond the price level. All right, yeah. I don't know of an indicator, at least off the top of my head, that calculates the 50% of something. I know NinjaTrader has some indicators in here that do some mathematics, like the min and the max. These are really kind of used for coding your own kind of stuff. They're like convenience things in there for coding your own stuff. There's even the N bars up and N bars down. Let's see, but I have not yet found one that calculates a 50%. So that's kind of the missing key to all this. Let's see. Yeah, Vittoria's saying the Fibonacci, although there isn't a Fibonacci indicator that feeds you plot values. So yeah, the Fibonacci has all kinds of percentage calculations, but the Fibonacci needs 2 points of reference. And so this only has 1 point of reference. And so to get to 50%, well, yeah, I guess your reference point, you could go from here down to 0 and then calculate 150% off of the Fibonacci. Although, this is one of the things on our to-do list, is to modify one of the Dorsian indicators to give us plot values from the Fibonacci. So, because if you use NinjaTrader's Fibonacci, right, this Fibonacci retracement or the extensions, that is just a chart. See, these are all chart objects, and NinjaTrader hasn't provided a way to analyze the values that may come from these chart objects. So hopefully in version 8 they'll make some changes so that programmers can access the data, the data points that these chart objects would give us. All right. So something like that. Like right now, there's no way to access the price values of this Fibonacci tool. So this has to be recoded into an indicator that gives us a plot output, like this line. So, we're getting there. Every progression of NinjaTrader gets a little better and better. So we're getting there, but if we had an indicator that calculated our 50%, so if we had for example, like a Fibonacci indicator, right? We could set a reference point of 0 on our ATR up to, up to this diamond, up to this price point. And what that would be a comparison. So you could grab the plot of your indicator that's calculating your 50% beyond, or essentially it would be 150% price level, and you would compare, you'd use the comparison solver to compare the ATR plot to this, what would be a fixed price level. And you would look to find when the ATR exceeds this price level. It would be very similar to, well, actually, yeah, here, I'll show you on the ATR. So let's look for, I'll look for when the ATR exceeds 13.5. Let me pull this up, and I'll just drop a comparison solver on there. So the reason why I'd be using the comparison solver is because it has, right, you can input two indicators into it, right? You have indicator A and indicator B, whereas the threshold solver only has one indicator. So with the threshold solver, you can't define these threshold levels by an indicator. Those have to be fixed. So we can use a comparison. And so if we had an indicator that calculated our 150% mark, right, that indicator could go in here. And that could provide us a static price level or price value. So let me switch this over to the ATR. All right, and so we're analyzing the ATR plot. And essentially, what the indicator we want, would be feeding us essentially an absolute value or a fixed value of 13.5. And we're looking for, let me slide this over. And so we're looking for when the ATR rate is above the 13.5, and we can see it's marked right here. But we don't want these short signals, and it may not necessarily be a long signal either, right? The ATR is non-directional, so we need to modify the short output here. So we'll set these to 0, and so now we're only getting a long signal when it's above the 13.5, but our signal may be in a short condition. So what we need to do is the short output, we just have it match the long output. So I can just put a 1 in there. And now we get both a long and a short condition. And our other solvers, when combined with this comparison solver, would dictate what direction to take the trade. So that's simply how you would do it. Let's just use a comparison solver. So ATR and 13.5, well. And then with that, and then the other part of this signal is now to wait for a pullback. So you'd wait for a pullback and something like this, for this type of a pullback, and that would actually be kind of like your entry signal, if I'm understanding Julie correctly. And so the next step would be you could use something like the toggle node to grab this initial signal and pull it forward until we get this pullback. So, Julie, I think that, conceptually that kind of answers your question. It's not an exact answer just because we're missing one piece of the puzzle here. what's going to calculate our 50% move up on the ATR. All right, so with that, let me kind of let me read through here. There's a lot of little comments. Just want to get some of these cleared off. Let's see. So just a moment here. So let's see, Bill's asking what feed am I using. I'm using the NutriTrader's Kinetic. So I don't know anybody who's using Thinkorswim. Sorry, Bill. No, all right. I'm still kind of scanning through, and there's lots of little comments here. So I've only gotten, while I'm scanning through this, guys, I've only gotten one question here from Julie. So if anybody else has anything they would like to see, it doesn't have to be a signal setup. If you kind of need a little more explanation on a function node or a solver or something like that, I just ask, take your time in writing out your questions so that way you can make it as clear as possible for me to understand. That would be helpful. And so, Julie, let me kind of point you to another piece that you'd mentioned. So Julie's looking, so this is, this was kind of the initial setup. So Julie's looking for these pullbacks. So Julie, just in case you're not aware, there is a video, there is a workshop, an older one. Let's see, video. I'll just bring up the documentation. There is an older workshop where I built a pullback system. So I built a BloodHound system here that looks for these pullbacks like this. And let's see. I think I might have it on here. So I'm going to add a second BloodHound onto the chart. And I'm pretty sure I have that pullback system here. Yeah, here we go, moving average bounce. And just to show you, while I'm waiting for the chart to update, I'll show you where that's at. So we go into the training workshops. Then we're going to go into the recorded webinars. And that was done back in, let's see, I think November or October. It must have been October. Yep, here we go. So it's October. So here's a secondary one. So the first workshop was just a moving average bounce, which you could also use as a kind of a rejection trade as well. So if you're looking for the MACD to reject the 0 line, right, this same logic would work for that as well. And so here's the templates that you can download. You know, the BloodHound template and the NinjaTrader template, and then the workshop video that explains what each solver is doing and how the system works. And then I was asked about, for next week, I was asked to modify the system a little bit, so I did a secondary workshop on that. So back in October there, Julie. All right, so let me put in 55. Let's see. There's not getting a signal out of that. Let me open this up. Might have left it in a broken state, so let me just check this out. Oh, looks good. Let's see. So I'm going to figure out here why I'm not getting this signal right here from the moving average bounce. So I think the initial issue is, yeah, I'm not getting a signal here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know why. Since I'm working with, basically this system was built for intraday trading, and so I was only looking for price to get within a few ticks of our moving average, within a few ticks. But since we're working with a stock on the daily chart, you know, the high and the low and the closing price, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for the high or the low to be within a certain range of the moving average. And so the low points, these low points on these tails here, are just too far away from the moving average. I think I had specified, let's go take a look here, what I said to look for. Probably something like 3 ticks or 4 ticks away. Yeah, 3 ticks. So, all right, on a stock instrument, 3 ticks is only 3 cents. And so clearly these wicks are far more than 3 cents away. Let's see, that's where we're at. So we're at 561.16. So we're like $1 away. So that's like 100 ticks. So if I wanted to make this work, I could put 100 ticks in there. Or probably the better thing to do is, if I'm working with stock prices, instead of working with ticks, I should be working with points. I'll put this over to points. So we'll say 2 points away, or $2. And okay, so there, I switched both of my differences over to 2 points, and let me take care of the other solver here. So what's going on is this set of logic right here is looking for when price comes into proximity to the moving average that we're trying to find a bounce off of. So that's what these guys are doing. They're looking for that. So I'm going to set those both over to points. So 2, all right. There we go, 2 points. And let's see, okay, that is my EMA 55, and I just want to make sure that this, yeah, these are looking for the EMA 55. Okay, great. And oh, okay. Sorry, my math is off a little more. Looks like I need to look for a much wider price range here. So let me just switch this over to 4. Now let's take a look. All right. Looks like even 4 is not quite wide enough. I'll make it $5. All right, there we go. $5 is working. So now let's take a look at the whole system. That's still not working. Okay. So this is turning out to be a good lesson on how to debug your system. So I know that at least I'm getting a signal here on this bar when price comes down. You know, when the low point, basically this low point is within $5 of the EMA 55, which is the red line here. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And so the next step is to figure out which one of these other solvers might be preventing the signal from coming through. So I've got some other kind of condition here that's a little too stringent. It's not working. So let me, essentially, so what we do is you just connect your solvers up one at a time and figure out which solver is not giving me a signal here. So this guy's not. All right, that solver's working. Looks like that one is working. And that one, and that one. So let's see what's going on here. Oh, that's right. I had added this solver in a couple of workshops back to kind of meet the needs of showing that workshop. So let's see, I was comparing the closing price to the high and the low. Oh, that's right. So I was looking for a particular type of bar. So I'm comparing the closing price to the high and the low of that bar, looking for the closing price to be in the upper range or the lower range of that bar. So this solver is not initially a part of the moving average balance. So if I connect that in, and there we go. So if I just put this back to its original design, now we get our moving average balance. All right, so when you download this Signal MA Bounce BloodHound template from the website, it will be set up like this, except you'll have to go in and modify these two solvers. So if you're working with stock data, right? Stock data has a much greater movement. So you probably will be wanting to work with points. So 1 point is basically $1 for stocks. So I set this to be looking for price to be within $5 of the moving average. So that's the one modification you'll need to work with stock data. And so here is our signal. Let me put my scaling kind of back to normal here. So there we go. So this is now marking when price comes down to our moving average for a bounce. All right. Let's see. It looks like I think Bercy has a question here. So let me kind of get some of these other comments cleared off here. Okay, so Pam has a question here. Since we're working with the comparison solver right now, this question kind of leads into the comparison solver. So Pam is asking, is there a way to specify less than and not less than or equal to? Like she wants an indicator A to be less than indicator B but not equal to. So no, I'm sorry Pam, you can't really go in here and control the exact logic. Let's see. Let's not work with this instance. Let's work with this BloodHound over here. So on the comparison, so there's no way to change the logic here, right? So essentially, if so if you don't want an equals to, so say like you want to make sure that something is greater than 5 ticks but not equal to 5 ticks. Essentially what you just need to do is just put a bunch of zeros in there and something like that. Pam, I think that should work for you. You can just put a bunch of zeros in there and add a 1. If you're looking for, or down here, if you're looking for A to be less than B but not equal to 5, then probably just put 4.9999999, and that's essentially going to give you the same output, same results. You don't want to get too exact with your logic like this, because the market definitely doesn't move in exact increments. So I think something like that should get you close enough there, Pam. All right, I'm just going to go back to my questions here. All right, so Julie, you want me to save this template here. So Julie, I take it you want me to save this template here. Let me put it back. Let's see. There. Okay, yeah, you bet. So Julie, just send in send an email in to support at sharkindicators.com, just asking for this template, and I'll attach it to it for you. And of course, anybody else that would like to set up? All right, so I'm still going through some of these questions here. Tim is asking a question about next gen. So Tim, that's really a question for next gen, not me. So I'm not a part of next gen. So I don't know exactly what they're doing from day to day. Every once in a while I meet with John, but I don't know the details of what John's doing. John just kind of comes to me for technical help. So Tim, I defer your question to them, to next gen. Yeah, Tony's got kind of a comical response. So Tony's been giving me lots of good questions and ideas for these workshops, and today he didn't have any questions for me. He feels like he's falling behind. No problem, Tony. All right, hi, Bercy. All right, okay, so here's, we get to Bercy's question now. All right, you're saying, say I put a 2.0/20, okay, Bollinger, and a 2.5/20 Bollinger on the same chart. Is there a way to measure the distance difference between the lower line of the 2 and the lower line of the 2.5 band settings? So you want to measure the distance. Let's see. Well, with the comparison, you can determine if they're a certain distance away. But if you want to know the exact distance, once again, so BloodHound doesn't, give you an output of a measurement. Let's see. Well, actually, maybe we can do that. This is not, BloodHound was not intended to this, but as we know, BloodHound's output ranges from 0 to 1 and 0 to -1. So BloodHound is essentially kind of giving you a percentage output, right? So when BloodHound's output reaches 1, it's saying that 100% of your solver's conditions have been met, right? And so obviously when the output gets down to -1, it's saying 100% of your short side condition has been met. So let's see. I'm going to take that BloodHound off, and let's get rid of that. And yeah, let me add the Bollinger Bands on here first before I start tweaking my chart. All right. So we're dealing with a 2, a 2 and a 220. And this is going to be 2.5 and a 20 period. All right, I'm going to make the bands a little bolder. All right, so keep in mind I'm still on the Apple chart here. Let's see. NinjaTrader still tells me it's loading data. Okay, so all right. So it is loading data. All right. All right. Sorry about this. I'll just have to wait for NinjaTrader to finish building the chart. I don't know why it's rebuilding the chart data. There we go. Yeah, let's see. Let me switch this over to a regular intraday instrument. And just put this on a 5-minute. All right, so Bercy is wanting to kind of find a way to measure the distance between the two bands here. All right, so Bercy, feel free to type in here any kind of clarifications if I go off a little, get off a little astray on your question. And I'm just checking to see if you did put the other comments in here. Oh, okay. So good. Bercy did kind of clarify his question. So he's wanting to know if the bands, the two different bands, are converging or diverging from each other. These two outer bands. So to do that correctly, we're actually going to, we've got on the drawing board, and I had mentioned this last week from another question involving the Bollinger Bands. I think I did this last week or 2 weeks ago. So I've been asked a couple of times, how do you determine if you have bands like this Bollinger Band here, if they're converging, in other words, if they're coming together, such as this area right here where the bands are coming closer together, they're moving closer together, or whether the bands are diverging, such as this area here where the bands are pulling apart, away from each other. So so I showed in last week's workshop, a simple way to do that. It's not 100% accurate. It works in this condition because you have the upper band sloping up and the lower band sloping down. So it works when the bands are doing that from each other. However, it doesn't work in this type of situation. And so this type of situation is why we have on the drawing board to come up with a converge and diverge solver. Not to be it's not going to be a divergence solver. That will need to be handled. That'll be handled by an indicator. But this is a solver that looks for one plot. Think of it as kind of similar to the comparison solver. However, it's going to be looking for your indicator A plot and your indicator B plot to be either moving towards each other or moving away from each other. And so in this situation here, we can see the lower band is moving up. It has a much steeper slope than the upper band. So they're converging together. but they're both sloping up. So the logic that I explained last week wouldn't work in this situation. It would only work in this situation for diverging, or it would work in this situation for converging situation, for converging. So per se, there really isn't a good way and 100% accurate way to do it yet. So just to recap last week, if you look at the slope of the bands, right, so if the upper band is sloping down, right, and the lower one is sloping up, that's clearly and easily you can see that that's a convergent situation, right? And so you could build that kind of logic using the slope solver. But this area here can't, there's no logic that can accomplish finding this type of convergent situation, at least not yet. So there is a few more things I'm trying to get worked out, and hopefully I can put that solver next on my list once I get a couple of things. So still trying to get the bar types squared away and get those out, get that off my plate, and then I can start working on stuff like this. All right, so with that, I'm going to look through, see if there's any other questions here. All right, so Ray's asking a question here. So he's not up to date with all the webinars. No problem, Ray. Hopefully you saw earlier I showed you how to go find the previously recorded workshops. But he's looking for, his question is there a way to be alerted when a certain candlestick is forming? He's trading the S&P E-minis. Is there a way to change the bar type on a template without loading it first? All right, yeah, so Tim wants to use a certain bar type. So Tim, if you go into the interface here, all right, so on the solver tab, you have this chart button. You can add that on there, and you can put any candlestick pattern you want on there. So let's see, let me put, I'll put it on a range. We're using the 6E, so typically I think a 5 range probably works good with the 6E. And so there you go, that's a 5 range. And you can take your solvers, and I could move this one down. And so now this solver is working on the 5 range. So I don't have to, excuse me, I'm losing my voice again. So I don't have to change my default or my chart bar type. However, just be aware that you're going to get some really odd results putting a 5 range, trying to look at a 5 range while you're working on a 5-minute chart. You're probably not going to see the results that you want because the two are not not synchronized. So Tim, there are some previous workshops, I believe back in April or May, that kind of explain the issues when you do something like this. So if your chart is on a minute, is on a minute time frame, and then you're putting solvers on it like a 5 range where they don't synchronize. So there are issues in doing that. Let's see, here we go. So hopefully, Tim, you saw this earlier. to look at the recorded workshops, just go to Training Workshops and click on the Watch Recorded Webinars. So, and you just kind of scan the subjects and the description, and you'll find the workshops that kind of pertain to your question there. Or Tim, you can send an email in with a little more detail on your question, and I can find the workshops that you're looking for there. Or not Tim, I'm sorry, Ray. That was for Ray, sorry. All right, so I'm just kind of scanning through some more questions here. Randy noticed. Randy's good at picking stuff up. Yeah, when I was waiting for my chart to load, Randy noticed I was probably loading up 13 years of data. Yeah, it probably was 5,000 bars. Let's see. So Bill, I think I already answered your question about what data feed I'm using. So I've got AMP and I've got Kinetic, NinjaTrader's Kinetic data feed. And I don't know anybody who's using Thinkorswim or Ameritrade. Sorry. And so Julie's asking, how do I draw the circles? So I seem to show this every workshop because it's a really, excuse me, a really handy tool. So this toolbar here is actually it's an indicator. So you can get it on Big Mike's and I believe on NinjaTrader's website. So if you go to the indicator list, and the indicator is called Toolbar. There we go, Toolbar Shortcut. So let's do a little search for that. And it's a great, handy little indicator, but it's not technically an indicator, right? It's a toolbar here. So they're just quick buttons, so you don't have to go to this pull-down menu here. Oh, so Tom has a suggestion for Bercy. Tom is saying there's a squeeze indicator on Big Mike's that can, I'm assuming, Tom, you're saying that there's a squeeze indicator that looks for when the Bollinger Bands are squeezing together. Tom is saying yes. All right, so good, Bercy. Why don't you scan through Big Mike's indicator download section and look for an indicator. Probably do a search for the word squeeze and look for those indicators, and you'll probably find an indicator here that will accomplish what you're looking for. And Tom, I also would assume that the squeeze indicator has some kind of an output that BloodHound can read, determining when the bands are getting squeezed. So he's saying yes. So we'll assume that Tom is probably already using it. So there you go, Bercy. Looks like someone's already at least coded up an indicator to get you through, you know, as an interim solution. But eventually we'll get that new solver out. All right, just scanning through some more. So you know what? I think we're just about to have this workshop wrapped up here. I think I see two more questions here. Randy saying if both outer bands were sloping up, but the outermost band slope was less than the other, they would be converging, yet both sloping up. Correct, yeah. Yeah, so I think what Bercy is looking for is probably something like this. This is really hard to see with the way the scaling is. Something like this. You can kind of see this little notch in on the lower band. Probably looking for like these little notches here, where the outer band is moving up faster than the inner band. Is probably what he's looking for. All right, so Tim's explaining his previous question. The reason I asked about changing the bar type before loading it is that I don't own the RJ Spectrum, and it hangs up when I load the new next-gen template because that is the default. I gotcha. So So Tim, if the next-gen template that you're working for is not the black boxed one, then you can set your own. You can save the template then. So let me open up this. So if it's not a black box, right, you can go in here and go in here and modify this to work with the Uniranko. So I think that would be a solution for you there, Tim. But if it's the black box version, I don't believe you can change. Well, actually, you can change the periods there, but I don't think you can save it. But you wouldn't be able to save it that way. All right, it looks like I got through everybody's questions. So, so let me kind of put this out again for next week. You know, this August is usually, you know, the slow period, the summertime when everybody's on vacation. The market seems to slow down a lot, and I've noticed that the questions have kind of slowed down a lot. So I haven't been getting any good questions to use as themes for my workshops. So I'll just send this invitation out to you guys. If you do have some questions, send them in for next week's workshop, and that way I'll have kind of a theme to go with. I think you guys seem to kind of like that. And the workshops seem to be a little better organized when I do have a theme to go with. But I do also once in a while like to offer you guys the opportunity to just kind of pop in a last-minute question like that as well. All right, so send your questions in for next week's workshop theme at support@sharkindicators.com, and I hope you guys have a good weekend and hope to see you next Friday. All right, thanks guys. Bye-bye.